Hi, this is Damien, AtHope, and I'm an axiological atheist. And I'm going to give you the background of how I became an atheist. Well, I was a believer, a fundamentalist Christian. I was raised as a Christian, and my parents were very, very extreme, evangelical, non-denominational, Pentecostal, speaking in tongues. Um, But they also were a part of almost like a religious sect that is very similar, I guess, what I've heard to Jehovah's Witness, in the fact that we didn't celebrate birthdays, and we didn't watch TV, and we couldn't listen to radio, and we couldn't have friends over. It was definitely very restrictive, and we didn't have any interaction outside of the church. And we went to church like 3 times a week, not just one. And my parents were pretty extreme in how they viewed God. They would go around the house and anoint the doors and windows with oil, and I mean, it was very, very extreme. And most of my life, I thought that was extreme when I was a kid. And my mom eventually, divorced my dad. He wouldn't let her wear makeup, or she had to wear long dresses and cover her head, and well, just top of her head, but she he took the radio out of her car because he said that she could be tempted by the devil to listen to the radio. But after a while of abuse and stuff with my mom, she left. Of course, my mom left us kids, so that was nice of her. With my dad, who was very abusive. But my mom left, and I was stayed with my dad, and for the longest time, it was like that, and he was very extreme. She got to be a little bit more like celebrating Christmas and stuff that my dad did not do. And but I didn't go live with her until I was almost about 12 or 13. So up until that point, I had never really watched a movie or really had very little connection to the outside world, other than the fact that I did go to school, but it didn't really didn't have friends, and really I didn't know much of anything. But I never really had any doubts of God. I didn't really have friends that much that I really had only friends that were believers. I didn't know anybody who was an atheist. I had one friend in high school who kind of became like a Satanist, but I think it was more about just trying to be different. And I just thought it was ridiculous. I mean, I just thought it was stupid, and I never thought about it being real. And the fact of like something against God, that I thought that it was just stupid. Satan was real, but at the time, but it was. I never questioned God. I never questioned Christianity. I just questioned my parents' version a little bit of Christianity, but I thought it was extreme. But but Christianity in general, I never questioned. And I basically was a drug addict and alcoholic. I got sober at 17 by I was put in a rehab. And after being sober for quite a few years, over 15, I decided that I wanted to help people. And so I thought about becoming a drug and alcohol counselor. And when I did this, I had to go to school. And so I finally went to college. And at 36, I went to college. And when I went to college, that was the first time when I heard other ideas outside of Christianity, and started hearing science. And it was a little hard at first because it sounded like it was disproving what I knew, or I thought I knew to be true. That the Bible was true. And the biggest thing about science that it got me was the fact that in my biology class, when they told me that everybody starts out as a default of female. And it takes actually 3 processes to, transfer to a man. And I just was blown away by that. I mean, because I was thinking, well, how could that be? That doesn't match the Bible. And I thought, well, if that is true, and it doesn't seem like the Bible story is true, or there must be some. So I started getting a little bit of doubt there. But it's still, that doubting the Bible wasn't making me doubt God at all. I wasn't agnostic. I didn't doubt God. Well, to be a drug and alcohol counselor, a lot of times it involves people doing spiritual experiences more than normal counseling probably would. And so they said that because of that, I needed to learn about other religions because everybody was not going to be a Christian. And so I had to take a class, actually two classes. One was on comparative religions. And I knew they were all wrong, of course, because Christianity was all right, even though I didn't know a damn thing even about other branches of Christianity. And even to this day, I know very little about some branches of Christianity. I mean, I just knew mine was right. I mean, I really didn't know. I mean, I knew that Catholicism was wrong and my branch of Christianity was right. And if you asked me to name 10 things about Catholicism, I couldn't have. And I knew that the Baptists weren't right. And if you asked me to name things about Baptists believe, I couldn't have done it. And it just, the greatest thing about true belief is it doesn't require any evidence. And I'm totally different in that area now. Now I reason and evidence is something I demand of myself. And even things that I believe, I sometimes go back and question again. Just for the fact that I so do not like true belief when it comes to things like, religion. Blind belief is just ridiculous. But, so I went into these classes, and when the first class, comparative religion, I was really blown away by how close some of the religions are. I mean, some of the ideas, you change a few names and things, it's not really that different. The way they thought, the way that they do, some of the practices they do, some of the things they value, wasn't that different. And that really hit me that, I know those are false. Maybe what I believe could be somewhat false. Especially with the fact that I already knew the science, kind of seemed like it was showing that the Bible wasn't true. And then I took the class on the Bible, and I thought, you know what? Here's a class that I'm going to get an ace in. I am going to get an A. I'm going to fly through this class because some of the classes were hard. This is going to be an easy class. This is going to be like a give it to me class. I mean, hell, I had already read the Bible twice. Some Christians don't do that. Well, that wasn't an option in my family. My family were very fundamentalist. You read the Bible. So I had actually read the Bible and heard the Bible on tape. So I had heard the King James Bible and the NIV. So I'd heard the Bible. And I thought, this is going to be great. And I went into that class, and I was blown away. I did not make it halfway through the class, and I turned into an atheist. Because the class wasn't on just telling me the Bible, it was telling me stuff I had never thought about and never heard. I did not know. That Genesis was not written first. Exodus was actually probably written first. Genesis later. Blew me away. What? The Revelations, and the Gospels, all those things were not exactly written the way they were about the same things. I mean, it was, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Wrong. Probably written Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. And the fact that they're before Paul's writings, not true. Paul's writings all should be first. So the whole chronological order, it's put together like a fantasy book. And just learning that was like, it just blew me away. And then that really got me, that was the not so much directly about God, but they had us do, in the middle of the book, they said that Lucifer was not the devil. Never was. That Lucifer had to do with the king of Babylon. And that it was actually a mistranslation of the King James Bible. What? I mean, it was... And then worse is they said there's no way that the snake in the garden could actually be Lucifer or Satan or any the devil. These are not the same things. First, that seemed, ridiculous until they had us read the actual verse. And the actual verse in Genesis says that the serpent is the most crafty of all the animals that God had created in the garden. Well, then it wasn't some kind of a fallen beast, Satan. It was an actual animal, and it was an animal of high intelligence and craftiness. So that it just blew me away. It doesn't. It made me start questioning things, and they showed me how different parts of the Bible just didn't match up with the archaeological record or with science, and I right then and there I went from a full Christian who really wasn't whatever doubting God to it was like having, the only way I could explain it is almost like being born again to an atheist. I mean, I went from pretty much no agnosticism to pretty much no agnosticism. I had no transition. It was almost an immediate thing. I went from a full believing Christian to believing in God to realizing that this is nonsense. And my whole face got hot, and I felt like a wave of emotions come over me. I realized I've been lied to my whole life. And how could I believe such bullshit? Someone asked me before that why did I walk away from God? This is absolute wrong. God, I realized, had walked away from the facts.